Ladies and gentlemen, we just ended another episode of NXT tonight, and it was really packed. The first match was Kaylee Ray, and she defeated Ember Moon. Kaylee Ray, of course, from NXT UK, and she's looking very impressive in the United States now. Ember Moon cut a promo sometime after the match and claimed to be making some changes. We'll have to see what those are in the future. Santos Escobar defeated Carmelo Hayes with some interference from Elektra Lopez outside the ring, but nonetheless, Santos Escobar did get the win. There was a little vignette with Hit Row. That feud with El Legado de Fantasma is still ongoing with Hit Row, and we're going to see more of that in the future. We had the bachelorette party for Indy Hartwell. I don't have a lot to say about that. I didn't think it was tremendously funny and kind of a waste of time, quite frankly. The Creed brothers of Diamond Mine, both with NCAA and Olympic background, looked very impressive and very dominant against two, quite frankly, jabronis. And they just demolished them. They look very powerful, very strong tag team. And we're going to see a lot from the Creed brothers in the future, guaranteed. Next up was Io Shirai and Zoe Stark. Of course, they both have the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. And we're starting to see some cracks in their tag team. Actually, we saw it, in the upcoming weeks through vignettes like when Zoe Stark was throwing away food from a Japanese restaurant, which was kind of stupid, quite frankly. But they're showing us NXT that there are cracks in this team. So we're likely at some point to potentially see a feud. But nonetheless, Zoe Stark and Io Shirai had a great match with Kaden Carter and Casey Catanzaro. Carter and Catanzaro are awesome. They're kind of the Ricochet of NXT. I don't know if they're ever going to hold titles or kind of be buried in the limelight, somewhat like Ricochet, but they give a lot, and they're very athletic. They're very excellent performers, and they're very important for a roster like NXT to have a team like that, where maybe they're not the dominant team, but they're the team where you think they just might be able to eke out a win against the champions. Again, very athletic. It was an excellent match. We saw some really great action in the ring. But, of course, in the end, Io Shirai and Zoe Stark defeated Kaden Carter and Casey Catanzaro. Next up was the bachelor party. Now, I kind of panned the bachelorette party, and I thought that was kind of misguided, a misguided segment. The bachelor party was hilarious. Johnny Gargano, Cameron Grimes, Dexter Lumis, all playing their characters up to the hilt. And those guys know comedy, and they're very good at it, particularly Gargano. But Lumis as kind of the psycho killer who was playing laser tag, and he was actually, destroying the opponents one by one physically, not actually shooting them with a laser gun, was quite amusing. And so that the bachelor party was actually pretty funny. And of course, this is leading up to next week when we have Dexter Lumis and Indy Hartwell's wedding. I have no idea what's going to happen next week. And we'll talk more about next week in a moment. Next up was Mei Ying of Tian Sha. Well, I should mention that Frankie Monet, Robert Stone approached Frankie Monet backstage. Frankie was talking about what a catastrophe the Dexter Lumis Indy Hartwell wedding was going to be. And Robert Stone had some information for Frankie Monet, and he let her know, hey, you've got a title shot next week. So Frankie Monet is going to be the opponent for the women's title, NXT title, against Raquel Gonzalez, of course. So that's big news for next week also. And we'll reiterate that at the end of this video, just to let you know what's coming next week. Next up was Tian Sha. This was Mei Ying, who was accompanied by Boa. Xia Li was not there this week, and I think that partly had to do, this is a taped show, but I think Xia was actually traveling with WWE. She did a dark match for SmackDown on Friday, so she wasn't there. I don't think she's left Tian Sha, but Mei Ying was only accompanied by Boa tonight, and she looked very impressive. She's got she looks like a cross between Kabuki and the Great Muta, with a few Ricky Steamboat karate chops in the ring. Very athletic, and she really showed her stuff in the ring, and she looks very creepy, quite frankly. So I think Tian Sha is a great gimmick, and I don't know if it'll ever translate into the main roster. I kind of hope it does. We need some, oddball characters once in a while. Bray Wyatt's gone, it appears. So, and that's unfortunate because, and I think they took Bray Wyatt's character a little too far into the supernatural, where you could never pull back from that. But if you have a character that still has to wrestle in the ring like a Mei Ying, and yet still has a certain level of creepiness, you can pull off some pretty good stuff and pretty good storylines within wrestling. So again, Mei Ying defeated Virginia Ferry. I don't know who Virginia Ferry is. I don't think we're going to see her next week. I think she was brought in as talent, much like the two jabronis that lost to the Creed brothers of the Diamond Mine. But Virginia Ferry, nonetheless, she did what she had to do, and Mei Ying received the win. MSK defeated Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. This was the main event for the tag team titles. And it was a very good match, back and forth, very, very stiff match at points. We had Pete Dunne and Ridge Holland looking on. And at the end of the night, when MSK is walking up the ramp, they've got their belts, they're all happy. And it looked like Ridge Holland and Pete Dunne were in the ring to kind of escort Lorcan and Burch out. But then they looked at each other, kind of nodded, and then they started to beat up Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. So whatever that faction was in the past, and I know that faction originally, minus Ridge Holland, was started by Pat McAfee, interestingly enough. But it looks like it's breaking up. And it looks like Dunn and Holland will still work together. Lorcan and Burch will probably continue to be a tag team. But for now, for whatever reason, NXT is breaking them up. Now, at the end of this match, of course, as the show is going off, we have to say goodbye to the short-lived NXT logo, which I thought was an awesome logo. But I'm also looking forward to the new setup for NXT. It looks interesting. Somebody pointed out in the video, there's no barricade between the audience and the ring. I kind of think they're going to put a barricade in. Can you imagine on a live show, no barricade with a mini stadium going up, up the sides of the building, and yet you have no barricade? That's not going to work, but that would be interesting. But it looks like the new setup is going to be a lot brighter, a lot livelier. Obviously, the logo looks like Bob Ross painting, or maybe he was practicing on the NXT logo or something. I don't know. But it'll be interesting. Let's give it a chance. Let's give it a shot and see how it works. We'll kick the tires around for a few weeks. So we have a lot to look forward to next week on NXT. We have the new set. That's obviously something we should look forward to. We have Dexter Lumis marrying Indy Hartwell. We'll see how that goes. There's a number one contender match, Fatal 4-Way, next week that's going to be LA Knight, Tommaso Ciampa, Kyle O'Reilly, and Pete Dunne. And the winner, of course, will then at some point challenge Samoa Joe for the NXT title. All of those are great contenders. Whoever wins that match will give Samoa Joe a great match, a great title match. And then lastly, of course, we said this during the conversation tonight, Frankie Monet will also have a title shot next week at Raquel Gonzalez for the NXT Women's title. Now, I should say the Samoa Joe title match against the winner of the Fatal 4-Way is not next week. We crown the number one contender from that Fatal 4-Way next week. Again, the four participants are LA Knight, Tommaso Ciampa, Kyle O'Reilly, and Pete Dunne. So I'm really looking forward to NXT next week, and also looking forward to AEW Dynamite on Wednesday night and SmackDown on Friday night. And then, of course, there's Rampage. We've got a lot of wrestling coming up, and it looks like the action is really heating up. Thank you for joining me right now for this conversation about NXT. I hope you can join me next time. In the meantime, please subscribe to this channel for updates and share, and also like this video. Thank you very much. Thank you for calling the Wrestling Hotline. Take care.